Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about one of the most overlooked components in the entire PC building. It's of course the power supply. People don't value the power supply enough and don't put as much thought into the power supply as they probably should. I have spent a lot of time getting familiar with all the power supplies, and not all the power supplies, but power supplies in general. I'm not an expert as such in the internal parts of the power supply, but I'm reasonably savvy with which ones are good and which are bad. I usually use the SPL, it's the Sir Providence Law. Him and his team are updating and maintaining this sheet. I will link to this sheet in the link description, of course. They have used the old cultist way of making them A to E tier, F tier, and if we start in the bottom, we have the F and the E tiers, and these tiers are pretty much just you have to upgrade your power supply now. Like now, you have to order it now. It is severely risk of blowing up or destroying components in your computer. If you have a D tier, you can wait until you actually have the money for it, but you should really upgrade if you have E or F tier. You shouldn't wait half a year if you have a D tier. You should still upgrade it ASAP, but you don't have to order it today. C tier is for low budget gaming PCs, like for Roblox and World of Warcraft Classic, and maybe some of the esports games you can have on a low budget, like less than $800, like 6,000, 7,000 kronas. B tier is for the low mid tier, like AMD's 7600 and a 5060 Ti type. They only have 3 to 5 years warranty usually, and you should not expect this power supply to outlive the PC. You can of course upgrade the CPU and you can upgrade a GPU, but you should not expect it to transfer over to the next PC you buy. So you should 5 to 6 years, and then you should buy a new one because this one will be worn out because the caps are not as good as in A tier, so they don't last as long. A tier will have at least 5 years of manufacturer warranty. Most of them have 7 or 10 years. This means that you can use this power supply for all of the PC life of your current PC you're building and the next one. And it will not only save you money because an A tier doesn't necessarily cost double of a B tier, so you will save money over 10 years, but it's also more efficient, so it will use less power to deliver power to your PC. Usually a B tier is like 86 or something, and an A tier is around 93% efficient, so it delivers more power and uses less to do so. So you save money just from buying this. So, if you use your computer a lot, having a good A tier will save you more money over 3 or 5 years than buying a B tier would overall. People will call it pennies, but it's usually adds up over time, and it's usually just a few hundred kronas difference, and you will save that on the better efficiency. What else can I say about the A and B tier? B tier are good for PCs like you have the Intel i5, so equivalent, the core what's it called? It's the 245 something. It's not as popular, but yeah. And the lower tier AMD ones, the 9600X or 7600X, maybe 7700X, you could use for a B tier. I wouldn't recommend using a B tier because it's worse and it lasts for not as long and it's more expensive. But if you don't have the money for an A tier, then you have to get a power supply. So B tier would be it. For C tiers, the B tiers, there's not many I would recommend, but there are a few, and I will get through them when we go through the list in a moment. There are a lot of good A tiers out there, and they are often on sale. And not if you go for the ones that are cheap at the point you are buying your components, and not look too much on a single brand, you will be able to probably buy a B tier, an A tier, not much more expensive than a B tier. You can see here I've made a list, and we can go to 850 watts. You can see this is the cheapest. It's the from the Deep Cooler Gamerstorm. It's just less than 1,000. And if we go to the B tier, I haven't found all the B tiers, but you will save a few hundred kronas. See, like 225 krona or something. Not a lot. And you will probably save this much money in a year, maybe a year and a half, because of the efficiency. And it will last longer, twice as long at least. So that's something to consider at least. Like I said, I will link to the SPL tier list in the description. We don't have first player here in Denmark, so I don't know much about it, but I think the NGGP is really good, and that's pretty much all I know about it. A-Data or XPG, they have the Core Reactor 2 and the Core Reactor 2 VE, and these I can recommend. For C tiers, the Pylon is one of the very best cheap ones because the Pylon was actually silver graded, not bronze graded, but the silver grading was removed from the 80 plus system. But the quality of the Pylon is still the same. So they haven't reduced the quality of the Pylon. So it's really good quality. It's almost a B minus, like the Kyber, but it's much, much cheaper usually. I could recommend one of these for a child's computer to play Roblox and Fortnite on a lower end system, very low end system, like cheap, like 40, 60, 30, 50 kind of systems, right? Something like that. If you go much higher than 50, 60 or something, I would probably recommend a B tier instead of B plus. But Pylon is really good for these lower tiers, or if you're having an office PC where you just use it for mail and Netflix and Twitter and stuff like that, Pylon is also really good and it will last you a long time. The next one I would recommend would be the ASRock Phantom Gaming, the PGG. Very, very good, often on sale. The Asus ROG are reasonable A tiers, all of them, but they have had some problems where they couldn't handle the current from the GPUs and they would shut down when a GPU would start up in a game and then it couldn't deliver and it would just trigger a warning and it would shut down. I don't know if they have fixed this yet on the newer ones, but both the Strig and the Loki had this problem. Asus uses Seasonic, and it's just usually Seasonic Prime with the Focus that is rebranded into ROGs. So it's not bad products. I don't know why they had this problem. They made the product and then they changed some of the some of the components to make it a little bit cheaper, and then they had these errors. So, and usually they're very, very, very expensive, and it doesn't warrant the money to get one of these usually. Be Quiet makes a lot of good ones. The dark power is very good, recommended for workstations like AI stuff and where you have high load, a lot of high load. The Pure Power 12M and 13M are very good consumer grades. You would need to make sure it's the 12M and 13M, not just 12 and 13, because they are not as good. They are just B tiers. The straight power used to be really good, but they haven't updated it in a long time, so you don't get 12-volt high power with it, so I wouldn't recommend that. And the system power I would not recommend either. They used to make some system power that was B tier, but according to the new standards, it's just C tiers and not recommended here. Chief Tech makes some really exciting ones actually. The Vega. The Vega is really, really, the Vega is really, really good. It's B plus. It's really cheap. You can see it's half price of an A tier, pretty much. Um, this I could recommend. The reason why this is cheap is because it's not modular. So you have to cable manage all the cables. They attach always to the power supply. So this is why it's cheaper. But if you have a case in the bottom where your power supply is and you can hide your cables there, then it's not a problem. So this is one of the B tiers I would recommend. Cooler Master GX Gold is also very good, but usually it's a little bit more expensive than the Vega. The MWME V3 Gold is also very good, and also the V2 Gold is very good. Be careful you don't pick the bronze, because they're not as good. I would not recommend those. You can pick them with the 230 volts. They would be B tier most of the time, but I would just pick the gold ones if you can find them cheap. The V series is very good, usually also very expensive. I don't know if V is for Vanguard or very expensive, but they are really good if you can find them on sale. I could recommend these two. Crosshair makes some of the best out there. They still have the AX. It's one of the very best ever. They are working on a new version. I don't know if it will be this year or maybe next year, but it's very hard to make a standard this high and be sure it's the best of the best. I cannot recommend the CX anymore. Yeah, the new ones are not very good. The HXI is really, really good. It's not as good as the AX, but it's really, really good. And it has internal monitoring. I think this is what the I is for. So you can see everything your power supply does on every rail and 5 volts and 12 volts and everything you can see in software live what it does. A lot of people love to see this. You can probably export it maybe to some, if you have some displays in your PC or on your case, you could probably display some of it there. The RME I would usually not recommend. It's usually very expensive for what you get, but if you can find it on sale, it's not bad. It's B plus. I think the reason why it's not A minus is because the fan is not as good, and if the fan dies or doesn't provide enough cooling, then the power supply dies, and then it's not worth much. So it's the weakest link that makes it worse, and it's heck that makes it so. And it's made from bulk caps. So the different caps they buy in big stock, and it's not the same ones necessarily. So the quality of the RME can vary from production to production, even though it's the same brand, it's the same model. It can still vary how good it is, but it will never be really bad. It will always be better than the regular bad PSU. RMX is kind of the gold consumer standard. Always recommendable to buy one of these. You have to be careful with the shift because it has the cables on the side, so you have to make sure your case supports this. But it can be really nice because you get extra length on the cables because they come out on the back. TX is kind of the cheap one, but it doesn't come with 12-volt high power either, and it doesn't have as many loadout as the others. So this is the cheap version where you would usually it would be PC builders like the big ones that would use these. The VS is not recommendable. You can see it's D and E tier. It's like replace this. I don't know much about Cougar, but it seems like the Polar is really good. Deepcool makes some really interesting products. Deepcool has been banned in the United States, and they are now called Gamerstorm. I think they ship stuff to the US and they assemble it over in the US, and then it's from this Gamerstorm brand, but they buy everything from Deepcool, I think, or the same manufacturer. So it's like I don't know exactly what is going on, but it's just some rebranding of the Deepcool stuff. But the PM and PND are reasonable B tiers if you can find them on sale. Also the PNM for that matter. The PQs and the PX are very good. The PX is very expensive. It's workstation grade stuff. NMX used to be really good. They made some few good ones in the old days, but they've fallen a bit off now. I don't know why. The DF12 and the DF2 is still really good, but I don't think I would recommend NMX anymore. But if you can find it for cheap, it's not bad. I wouldn't recommend EVGA. They might go out of commission and you won't be able to warranty it. Fractal Design hasn't released a new iron in ages, so you're stuck on the old 2.x platform. So you won't get 12-volt high power on this, so I would not recommend it, even though it's really good. If you buy a used one, you can do that, but make sure it's not very old because and it has to not be in a box for 3 years because the caps they die if you don't get power. So be sure to ask if it's used a lot, and it's better to be used a lot than not to be used at all because they simply die and not just get worn down. The FSP Hydro is reasonably good, but also usually very expensive. I would not recommend Gigabyte, but the UGGM is reasonably priced and is B tier, so I think I won't recommend it, but you probably won't regret buying it either. High power makes a very good B tier, but we don't have high power here in Denmark, so in the States they're very popular. Lee and Lee also makes the Edge. It's a very good power supply, also very recommendable. Montec is one of my favorite ones, also makes some great cases, cheap cases at least. The Century 2 is very good, and the Titan is excellent. It's really, really good. The Titan Gold and Platinum are really, really, really good, and often come on sale. Let's see if we can find a Titan here, maybe. Usually, yeah, it's the cheapest one, 1000 watts. Yeah, very, very good, very recommendable. MSI also makes some really good ones. Very few bad ones, at least. The new AGS and the GLS are reasonably good. I haven't seen them yet personally. AGF is also good, and AG they're a little bit more noisy, but they're really good. NCXT is like almost as good as the Crosshair RMX. The C series is really, really recommendable and very price competitive. NCXT had some problems a few years ago where their quality control weren't fully up to date. They sent a few or a lot of power supplies out that was dead on arrival, and a few blew up some PCs, but they made good on the warranty, and they replaced everything that was destroyed or ruined. So I don't think you can hold it against them anymore. The C series is really, really good. Has some really good cables. It's a nice quality. Very recommendable from here. Fantech amp is also reasonable, but it's also a little bit old now, and I also think it's really expensive if you find it. I wouldn't recommend Razer just because it's Razer. Burned myself. Sonic doesn't really make their own products anymore. They just make products for others, more or less. The same goes for Silverstone. Mostly make server stuff now, I think. Superflower is one of the better ones. The LED X7 is really, really, really good. This, if you can find this as a reasonable price, I would always recommend this over any other. I think I would go LEDX, RMX, and NCXT as the top three. Maybe the Montec Titans on four. Yeah, I think that would be my recommendations. There are a few B tiers. We have the GFA3 here, also reasonable, usually also cheap enough. Did we have if you want small form factor, you are kind of screwed. There are not a lot of good cheap small form factor PSUs at the moment. They're very expensive, and if you find some that you want to pay, they usually see a B tier, or else they cost, yeah, a lot. I think that was it. If you have any questions about power supplies or which to buy, drop by the Discord or ask in the channel, and I will see if I can reply as fast as possible. Have a nice day, everyone, and see you around.